The Volturi are what I would describe as the government of the vampire community.
Kind of like the rule makers of the vampire world.
They're unofficial, they're not elected in any way.
They're like the police as well.
Judge, jury, and executioner.
Sort of like a criminal organization.
I like to think of them as the mafia.
We deal with people.
We go about our business in a less savory manner.
I think they're certifiably insane, each and every one of them.
That's about it.
Well, the Volturi are made up of the core coven, Arrow, Marcus, and Caius. And then you have the sort of guard, people like Jane and Alec and Demetria and Felix. In Breaking Dawn 2, you sort of get to see something a bit more substantial from the Volturi. All the things that were maybe there under the surface throughout come out a bit more in the last story.
We've made some improvements to the place since the second film. We decided to strip it back, go a bit more rustic with the look, sort of a lot of open brickwork, shafts of light coming through. We went for more of the wood furniture rather than sort of, the marble in which you would have seen in the second film. It's still got the original bones of the structure, but it's a little bit more imposing, and I think, as a coven, we needed that. And we needed, to make people feel scared when they entered.
Marcus is the oldest vampire in this Supreme Court family.
My character, Caius, he seems to be constantly angry.
He's kind of a sadist, and that helps what they have to do sometimes.
He's not happy about Arrow being the head of the Volturi. He doesn't really like that. He saw this as more of a communist thing, and there's no communism here. This is dictatorship, I think, is what he believes.
These children are much like us.
Regardless, the Cullens have been consorting with werewolves, our natural enemies.
It's a bit of a power play between the three, I think. One person saying, oh, well, this is all right, and Caius is saying, no, it's not, and Marcus is like, well, who cares? Hi, Chris.
Marcus is wonderful because he doesn't say much. And so there's just lots going on, bubbling things he wants to say, decides not to say it. Is he going to act? Is he not going to act? It's this constant ebb and flow of feeling and thought and waves of wanting to disappear, waves of thinking of a little bird that floats by while some massively important thing is going on that he really has no interest in. It's really fun playing a character that is very possibly only in my little head.
Michael Sheen is such an original performer. It was remarkable to watch him.
I remember when I first started thinking about Arrow and reading Stephanie's first book, there was one little bit of description of Arrow about his voice, and that he had a voice like feathers.
It seems Carlyle is gathering witnesses of his own.
I'd always sort of had a sense of Arrow from the very beginning, from when I first played him, that I wanted to have little flavors of characters that I'd come across since I was a child in classic kind of children's literature, I suppose. And one of them was the child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, who's got the lollipops, that kind of horrible thing, and like the Blue Meanie in Yellow Submarine as well, who has this very soft voice, and then goes absolutely crazy. And I thought that was kind of a good reference point as well.
Felix is a elite guard who is very good at tearing vampires apart and being ultra aggressive.
Dimitri, I'm assuming Dimitri used to be the head of the guard before Jane and Alec were introduced.
Dimitri and I aren't huge fans of Alec and Jane. We kind of feel like we've been shoved aside and they've taken the forefront.
I think what I love about Jane is that she's supposed to look kind of innocent and small and childlike, but she's actually extremely dangerous and villainous.
People tend to think, I suppose, of immortal creatures, how amazing it would be to be around for that long, and yet I would imagine that the single biggest threat to someone who is immortal is just the boredom. And, just it's the same all the time, and you know, anything that would alleviate that would be a nice thing. So anything that comes along that's new. So I think Arrow has taken that one step further and actually plays tricks with himself, in some ways pretending that he's interested in things that he's not really necessarily, but he sort of makes himself interested in them. So he's developed this persona that is a false persona, like a mask that he wears, that kind of just amuses him.
Oh, Edward and Bella are to be married.
So I imagine it like this grandmother, this little old lady who just loves love stories and wants everything to work out really well. And oh, it's so lovely, this tragic romance that Edward and Bella have, and oh, it's so wonderful. And underneath, it's not like that at all. He's like power mad, psychotic.
Oh my.
The Volturi fulfill a purpose, which is to keep the vampires safe.
They like to represent themselves as the police. You know, we're here for your good, but it's a facade of benevolence.
Dear one, there is no danger here today.